for our members to learn more about the individuals seeking to lead our city and our school district. We appreciate each candidate's willingness to serve our community and their commitment engaging with voters. Can we please offer them a round of applause? As someone who has been for office before, I know how much pressure and how hard it is to put your name on the ballot, so I just want to commend all of you for that tonight. So, before we begin, I would like to thank our timekeepers, so Anna and Reagan, thank you so much for being in charge. And so if you see signs going up, this is part of it. They are not trying to distract our wonderful candidates tonight. So here is our format. Candidates will answer the same question. Before the floor, the candidate who will be the first question was determined by a coin toss. We're very efficient and official, apparently. Each candidate will answer 4 questions, 3 questions for both candidates, and 1 that will be specific to each candidate that has been submitted by our members. The order in which candidates will respond will alternate between each question. The response time. Each candidate, you will have 90 seconds to respond to each question. Our timekeepers will provide each candidate with 30 seconds, 15 seconds, and a stop, your time is up warning. Okay. Rebuttals. You each will have an opportunity to have 1 30-second rebuttal. Otherwise, we would be here for hours and hours, and we respect your time as candidates. Rebuttals after each question has been answered, you will get that 1 rebuttal. Closing remarks. At the end of each round, candidates will have 2 minutes to make their closing remarks. So, at this time, are we ready to begin?
We are.
Okay,
Go
thank you. Fantastic. So, we're going to start, of course, with our lovely mayoral candidates first. So, Mr. Nash, you won the coin toss, and you will be now given 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Mark Nash. I'm running for mayor. I moved to Edmond in 1989, bought my first home. Me and my wife raised our 2 girls here. Both of them graduated from Edmond Memorial High School. One of them is now a teacher at Edmond Memorial High School. I've got 4 grandkids. All 4 of them love playing in the renovated Stevenson Park. You can't get my grandsons off of that space station slide. Why am I running? Well, I spent most of my professional career working on processes. I am a process improvement expert. I am a 6 Sigma Master Black Belt. May not mean a whole lot to many of you. I'm a lean manufacturing expert. Once again, may not mean a whole lot to a lot of you, but that's what I do for a living is I fix things. I spent 10 years of my career fixing things for the state of Oklahoma. I was a legislative management auditor, and then I spent 3 sessions with the state Senate as a Senate fiscal analyst. It was at a time when the state had no money after the oil bust of the 80s. And we had to figure out how to fund state government as we watched the rainy day fund drop almost to 0, for those of you who remember that dark period in our history. We changed the way we budgeted. We made it incredibly transparent. We figured out how to understand what agencies were actually doing. We focused on it. We came up with a path forward, and today I'm proud to say that the state's rainy day fund is incredibly healthy. I've got the knowledge, I've got the experience, and I want to fix the city's financial problems.
And Mr. Ross.
It's been my honor to serve on city council, to be able to represent and serve my neighbors. Disclaimer, my family and I literally might have sat down last night and watched Leslie Noble Parks and Rec do her city council debate. So we're ready. And I have my binder ready to go with 1,000,001 ideas. I thought it'd be nice to get to know me a little bit by telling you a little bit about a question that I was asked and then a question that I asked, because I want you to have somebody who's engageable. I went to a splash pad opening. I was super excited. People love splash pads. And I posted online. I'm very active online. And somebody, Miss Neely Gay, posted on there, I hope my son has a place to go to the bathroom. That kind of caught me off guard a little bit, so I did a lot what I did. I direct messenger, and could you tell me more? And we got on the phone and had a conversation. What I found out is because her son, who had some mental and physical delays, as he was getting older, was well past being able to be changed on a baby changing table. And so think about their options. The only dignity they had was on a bathroom floor, which no one would ever want to do that, or out in front of people in the back of their car. And so I said, well, there's got to be something that we could do there. So I invited her and her husband to meet with our director of parks, and they just educated us on the different things that they could use or need. And it broke my heart as they showed me an app, which families like theirs have, that show where they can go to the bathroom in a dignified place. And there was just a handful in Edmond. And so after meeting with her, I set it up so that we could have in any one of our new facilities that will have a bathroom that will accommodate people like her and her son. The second was, when I was elected to city council, I asked, do we have paid parental leave for moms and dads, because dads need to be there? The answer was no. I can talk to you about it later. Within the first 2 months of city council, we became the first city to offer paid leave, not just to moms, but to dads, so that they can show up. And for those who adopt, they get the same amount of leave. And we give a week for foster care. We're the only city who did it, and that was a policy idea that I had because of a question I asked. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Walker. We'll now go to opening statements from our school board candidates. So we will start with Mrs. Jones on behalf of Mr. Jones.
Yes, you got the maybe second best Jones in Edmond. I'm going to play the video. You won't see the video, but I'll play the audio for you guys. Hopefully this works. Of course, it's not going to work. Just technical difficulties, sorry about that.
Information about myself. Over the last 3 years, I've been serving on the board, and I've been able to use my inherent insight with the two girls that I have that are 13 and 9, one attends Cheyenne and Cross Timbers. I've also been able to use my technology background to help guide the district, along with the fact that I've been a resident of Edmond since 1984, and I've matriculated through Northern Hills, Sequoia, and Edmond North. And so I have a great understanding and sense of community when it comes to our schools. Some of the things that I'm proud of is in 2024, there were 2,884 AP tests that were passed, achieving a 79% pass rate. That was the highest in the last 6 years. Another improvement or goal that I think has been really good is in 9.6 of the EPS graduates, only 9.6 of the EPS graduates required college remediation. Compared to the state average of 18.3%, that is wonderful. The class of 2024 also earned a 21.0 ACT average, which was 1.6 points above the nation and 3.4.
Well,
He got panicked
that's
when he saw
just
the
what
sign.
it's going to be. Anyways, we're parents to children in the district, and hopefully he'll earn your vote. Sorry if I don't speak the best for Marcus.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Mr. Putnam.
Well, good evening, and thanks for all of you coming out here. It's encouraging to see so many people are interested in the mayor's race and for the school board. That's not always the case. Last year, in 2024, there was an 8% turnout for school board elections statewide. It's better than that in Edmond, but that's not really indicative of what the community would look like. I moved to Edmond for the schools. My last assignment in the Air Force was Tinker Air Force Base. We shopped around, took a hard look at the schools and the performance, and Edmond was the #1 choice because the schools were doing very well. My beautiful wife here, Dr. Billy Putnam, has graduated. Her 2 sons out of Edmond schools. My 2 sons graduated out of Memorial as well. So things are going well. However, I learned in the last 6 months or so that there's been a very steady decline in performance of our school district. And it's so subtle that it's really not on anybody's radar. We've gone from the 94.2 percentile in ranking in the state level of school districts down to the 70th centile in less than 10 years. Measured against ourselves, our school performance has dropped 39.5% in the last 10 years. We now have kids in high school that are only 68% proficient in English and only 42% proficient in math. You have to wonder if that's not shortchanging our kids. Top end is going real well, and I agree with Marcus Jones. The school is taking care of our top end kids real well. I'm concerned about the folks in the middle and the folks in the bottom end. 15 of our 19 elementary schools have dropped in their ratings from last year, and 2 of those dropped over 150 slots when ranked against other elementary schools in Oklahoma. 5 of those schools have a C grade rating, and 2 of them have a D grade rating. That's not the Edmond we're used to. So I'm running for school board because I know how to fix things, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sutton. Okay. So we will now move to the Q&A portion of our mayoral candidates here. So we are going to start with question number 1. So this will go to Mr. Robbins first. With recent fire emergencies and the impact of red cedars having and contributing to wildfires, what would you do as mayor regarding the red cedar infestation in Edmond city parks in areas such as Lake Arcadia? You'll have 90 seconds.
Well, thank you for the question. One, I'm very honored to be the candidate supported by the families who serve and protect Edmond through our police and fire associations, and I don't take that support lightly. We saw this just this last 2 weeks, the significant, and it's actually the most significant investment that any city in the Metroplex gives to our first responders really paid off as we were able to rally around and help those communities that were in need. Specifically as far as the trees, some of you all might know this, but we actually have a city arborist who serves in the city of Edmond. And I think a part of that is educating and engaging our citizens a little bit more about the invasive species. I think all of us who have struggled and paid the Porsche payments of every doctor for allergies this last week can give testament that sometimes we want to plant beautiful things or things that we look nice, but that are very detrimental. I actually met with the legislature. There is a bill that's focused primarily on rural areas in Oklahoma that's going to get a second round of funding to take care of some of these cedar trees, and they kind of explode when they catch on fire. I would like to see that when we have interested citizens to be able to see if we can't work with our great delegation to get some matching funds. So I'm aware of a program right now that the state's doing. The city has an arborist. We need to educate and engage those that are doing it. We need to continue to invest in our fire, and I'm grateful for their support.
Thank you, Mr. Robbins. Mr. Nash, same question.
Don't start that timer yet. I don't know what's going on here. There you go. I'll do it this way. I got it. I got it. No, I got it. I got it. It's my electric personality, I guess. Wow, the cedar trees. Yeah, can you hear from my voice? They've attacked me. It's been a problem for quite a while in Oklahoma. And we've got some pretty creative things going on around the state that I think that Edmond could jump on board with, where there are actually organizations who are cutting those trees down, shredding them, turning them into mulch, and reusing them as landscaping. That is a great use for literally that invasive weed we have in Oklahoma. I've got them all over my lot where I live, and if I could figure out how to replace them and get the screening that I need, I would do that very quickly. But that is probably our best bet, because we are a tree city, and we take a lot of pride in our trees. Well, it doesn't matter if it's a red cedar, if it's a pecan tree, if it's a catawba tree. It doesn't matter. It's a tree, and we take great pride in that. So what we really need to be doing is we need to figure out how, if we cut one down, we plant another tree. Edmond Electric, City of Edmond have ongoing programs as a tree city to help fund that, to help make those things happen. And we need to, I think, boost our capacity to do more as far as getting us involved with trading those trees out.
Thank you, Mr. Nash. Our next question, and Mr. Nash, you will go first this time. The vision of EDW states that we stand with the underserved. How have you, or do you plan to identify the underserved in our community and give them a voice in our city governance?
So I can tell you that my church has done a lot for the underserved. I go to First Christian. We sponsor Breakfast on Boulevard, breakfast 5 days a week. Our church ministers and our elders were instrumental in identifying the homeless that we know around downtown Edmond and getting pictures of them and getting their names so that we could call them by name instead of when you'd hear the police refer to them as Hatchet Man or Rastafarian Lady. They have names. And that's the first step, is acknowledging that these are people and they need our help and we can do things to help them. The second thing that we can do is figure out what else we can add to what's going on at the Hope Center, what's happening at First Christian in the mornings with Breakfast on Boulevard, what happens here with the free lunch on Tuesdays. There's a lot going on. We just need to figure out how we as an entire community jump on that bandwagon. Thank you.
Mr. Robbins, same question.
You know, I think there's a definite misnomer that we don't have need in Edmond. Sometimes you hear that. You know, my son, we live right behind Sequoia. If you open up the gate, that's where we're at. And I noticed he was taking extra snacks, okay? Well, kids love snacks. And so my wife and I were like, hey, Mikey, you don't need 2 snacks. Okay. We saw him grabbing some more snacks later in the week. Mikey, we told you, you don't need more snacks. And he says to us, yeah, but Mom and Dad, these aren't for me. I go, what are you talking about? It's for a kid at my table who doesn't have snacks. Now, I have 3 sons. So what I'm about to tell you, hopefully you'll give me some sympathy and empathy. I looked at Mikey. I said, Mikey, I know Mr. Inga, you're a principal. If someone doesn't have food, I'm going to reach out. Are you sure this person doesn't have a lunch or snacks? Yes, Dad. That's what I've been doing. I've been feeding this kid. I reach out to Mr. Inga. Mr. Inga comes back to me. Mr. Robbins, thank you so much. I've investigated. There isn't someone that we know of that's getting snacks for Mikey. We let him have it. Mikey doubled down. He said, no, Dad. There's a kid at my table who I always give food to. I said, I'm going to reach out to Mr. Inga again. We did it. A day later, Mr. Robbins, I apologize. I was looking at the list and didn't see the young man's name on it that he was referencing, but I went to the lunchroom. It so happens that he came after the start of the school, so he wasn't on the roster for that lunch table. Your son has been feeding that kid. As your mayor, I will lead in the fight to help the unhoused and those that need our assistance. Our kids know it. We need to just follow their example.
Thank you so much. Next question, and Mr. Robbins, you will start first on this one. Women are 52% of Edmond's population, yet have significantly fewer seats than men in the city, county, and state-appointed boards, commissions, and elected positions where vital decisions are being made. Currently, only 33.33% are female, and over 66.66% are male. What are the most significant institutional barriers to women's participation in Oklahoma state government, and how do you plan to address these barriers?
That's a really great question. And I can tell you, win or lose being mayor, the best thing that's going to happen to Edmond, Oklahoma is the person who took my seat was Maggie Murdoch-Nichols. And one of the reasons why I met with Maggie, was so impressed with her, and recommended her recommendation to serve in the seat that I vacated and stepped down from to run for mayor, is because I knew that our council would not be complete if we did not have somebody who was walking right now as a person who has kids, that is working, and who wants to serve, and that would be a major blind spot. So honestly, if I don't make it to be mayor, the fact that she was there and I encouraged her and talk to her and try to introduce her. But that is a lot of times what is needed, that invitation, that ability to reach out and say, no, we don't just want you here, we absolutely need you here. At the last mayor debate, I was embarrassed because I met a neighbor, literally somebody just down the street. And she told me a story about during COVID, her mom had a delayed response to the ambulance service, EMSA. And she told me about that. And she unfortunately passed away because of the delayed response. Because of that, I was moved to action to move and do the hard work of switching over to an Edmond dedicated ambulance service that would be just for our city. Had she not showed up to that debate, had she not spoken up, we'd still have the significant delay times. But because her voice was heard and she talked to me, we were able to execute. So thank you for the question.
Thank you. Mr. Nash.
So you gave us the current statistic. 2 years ago, it was just a little over 30%. Our 2 city council members who are rotating off in May, both females, have pushed really hard to get more women appointed to boards and commissions over the last couple of years. I think that the secret to that is working with the chamber, organizations like this, to find out who is interested in serving their city so that we can get more women involved. It takes a collaborative effort, and you've got to figure out where the active people are that are willing to step up and serve on these boards. I served on EDA for 12 years. I served on the Public School Foundation board for 6 years. It's a commitment to do these things. And to find women is a little bit harder simply because there are a lot of really qualified women who are trying to raise families at the same time. And for some reason, guess what? The husbands get to go do this stuff and the women get to stay with the kids. We've got to find those women who are willing to help us. And they come from organizations like yours, from the chamber, and from other organizations around town. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So the last question that you will have is specific to each of you. And so we're going to start with Mr. Nash first. So Mr. Nash, according to your bio, you have served as the management auditor for the legislature, a Senate fiscal analysis, and director of the finance for the Department of Public Safety. How will you leverage this experience to help the citizens of Edmond?
So, as I mentioned in my introduction, I had to work on budgets with the state legislature at a time when we had no money. Currently, we're eating into our reserves in the city of Edmond. We're not broke yet. I bring the numbers up, $990 million in bond service debt, $439 million in a budget, in revenue, $543 million in budget. And we're literally balancing it with $104 million in reserves. Well, $42 million is bond debt service. That means we're spending another $62 million this year on other things. That's very hard to see because of the way we put our budget out there. I was working with the state at a time when we had to figure out how to make it easier to understand what state agencies had. That's how we do it, is we clean up the budget program. And you can't blame anybody in city government, simply because this is the way municipalities grow. It starts out with bookkeepers' ledgers. Over time, it turns into accountants' ledgers. And then all of a sudden, we're doing what we're doing today. And that's a nationwide problem when you read about the best of the best. So it's time to break the mold, change the way we budget so that everybody in town can understand what's happening. Thank you.
Mr. Yes.
Can I do it? I don't want to call it a rebuttal, I just want to speak to you kind of the budget for a minute.
You've got 30 seconds for your rebuttal.
All right, so when we look at bond debt, something to be considered of is 83% of that is our water and the water project. So before I got on city council, the former city council decided to go embark on a water project. Not of a vote of the people, but just of the vote of the current council at the time. That meant a $309 million project. When I got on council, I discovered it's now over $500 million. So I told the city manager and the mayor who asked how they could earn my vote for rate increase, that we needed to go back to the people and that we needed to work with them. And so I was the only one on council to vote against raising your water rates, that most significant part of that bond debt.
All right, thank you. So, Mr. Robbins, according to your bio, you assisted with the confirmation hearings of Supreme Court Justices Alito and Roberts, as well as being the president of Solid Foundation Consulting. You're also the founder of Work Zone Safe, which in 2023, the legislature passed a law saying that teenagers would be required to participate and pass that before receiving their license. With all of your connections for your companies at the state and federal level, how will you leverage this experience to help the citizens of Edmond?
Great question. When you say help get nominated, to be clear, I poured some water glasses and sharpened some pencils, but I want to say I did it better than anyone who was in their early 20s out there. That's a great question. So I've built some relationships over time with our legislators, and I'll give you one example. I got notified in my district that there was a 24/7 illicit massage parlor that was going on. We have over 20 of those. They just pop up. And what we find is they're taking advantage primarily of women who have English as a second language, traffic them here, take their paperwork, and then moving them around. And we also have to talk to the men about the demand, but I only have 2 minutes. I moved to shut that down, but I wanted to understand the root cause of it. The root cause is that we can't, as a city, ask for a license up front, nor can we do basic zoning, because years ago there was a legislative push to move that to the cosmetology board. I held a town hall where I did not expect this, but I was approached by a woman, and I just want to be careful because I know we have younger people here, that was assaulted at a legitimate massage place in Edmond. And so together we met with Senator Kristen Thompson and the Edmond delegation, and right now there's legislation that'll fix the loophole that allowed that person to be licensed, but then will also give the citizens of Edmond back the authority to be able to license them up front so we know who's there and what's going on to keep it safe, but then also to do basic zoning. And so that legislation is moving. Kristen Thompson said that it's going to move off the Senate floor next week. It was because of my town hall, and she appreciates that. And so that's probably a good example of how I use that to be able to help those that come and have problems and see how we can actually get results and address it.
All right, and that will conclude our questions for our mayoral candidates. They will be doing closing statements afterwards. Could we please give them a round of applause? So next, we will now move on to the Q&A portion for our school board candidates. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to respond to each question. The orders of the responses will rotate, as you have seen before. So, Ms. Jones, you gave the opening statement, so we're going to let Mr. Putnam have the first question. All right. First question. Edmond Public Schools recently won a court case affirming the authority of local school boards over library book policies. What is your perspective on the role of state superintendent in local school decisions, and how would you advocate for local control?
Well, as I've been running for this school board position, I realized that it seems like Ryan Walter's name keeps popping up. My put to that would be, he's not running for District 5. I am. At the start, I thought he had some really good ideas, like putting a lot more mentors and teacher's assistants down on the lower grades. I thought that was a great idea. We don't need to leave any kids behind by the 3rd grade. If they can't read and write by the 3rd grade, they're never going to get caught up. Great idea. However, this flaming controversy back and forth about books, it just brought the state board and the Edmond board into contention on the 6 o'clock news. I'm not sure we need that. We got to be able to solve problems at a much lower level. The parents really should have a strong input as to what their students are learning and what they're being taught, and have some say. If there's some contentious areas, the parents ought to be told that they have the right to opt their children into those areas as opposed to anonymously opt out. If they have to opt in, they will obviously be given a lot more information about what's going on. Okay, I think that covers it. Let's take all the good ideas we can, and let's brush off those that don't make a lot of sense.
Thank you, Mr. Putnam. And Mrs. Jones, same question.
Can you repeat it for me?
The question is, what is your perspective on the role of the state superintendent in local school decisions, and how would you advocate for local control?
Okay. So obviously Marcus advocates for local control. Parents do have the right to opt their children out of any curriculum that they do not want their child to have. And it's really not a difficult process. So opt in, opt out, I don't know. I don't think it makes a huge difference one way or the other. You're opting in or you're opting out. Parents have that decision. And I think it is really important for parents to have input into the schools. So they can reach out to their principals or teachers or the administration of Edmond Public Schools, and then the last person probably is the board member, because they do oversee a lot of the policies. As far as the state goes, they're setting the standards that we have to abide by. At the local level, that's state law. I don't know if you guys have seen like the standards that are coming up for social studies or reading or whatever. That's all coming from the state. The school board doesn't have the ability to opt in or opt out of that. It's a state law that they do have to do that.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Jones, very much. All right, we're going to go to our second question, and this time, Ms. Jones, you will start. Speak a little on the candidates or your current involvement in EPS activities. How are you currently supporting Edmond teachers and students with your time and talent?
Okay, Marcus is very involved. I would say we have 2 children, so we're going to field trips, and Marcus ended up being a part of the orchestra performance at Cheyenne. They have like a parent night where the parent has to learn how to play the cello, so he went and did that. So that was kind of fun to watch him do that. Other than that, we go to a lot of different plays that all the different like high schools and middle schools put on. I think the last one we went to was at Central Middle School a couple weeks back. He goes to sporting events. He goes to visit the classrooms. He also went, I think a week or 2 ago, to a German class at Santa Fe High School where they were having a special event. So there's lots of ways that Marcus gets involved. I can't think of any more off the top of my head, so I'll pass that on.
Thank you, Mrs. Jones. Mr. Putnam, the same question.
Well, I spent 32 years in the Air Force, retired as a colonel and inspector general at Tinker Air Force Base, and I've always been involved in the local communities wherever we were stationed, although I've lived longer in Edmond than any place else in my adult life. I've been a Boy Scout leader for 18 years. I sought 7 of the merit badges, including citizenship in the community, where he took the Boy Scouts down and sat in the city council and looked at the agenda and had him report on it. I've been vice president at the local and state level for the Air and Space Forces Association. We took care of all the air bases here and all the dependents and kids in there. It's been 17 years as the president of the Experimental Aircraft Association. Our chapter has flown over 5,000 kids between ages of 8 and 17. I was recognized by the governor, and I personally was told in December I'd flown 500 personally, so still involved with youth in that aspect. I've been serving on the Department of Aerospace and Aeronautics for the last 7 years. We take care of the 108 public use airports here in Oklahoma. And we have a bachelor's degree from the Air Force Academy in engineering and 2 other master's degrees beyond that. I taught 3.5 years at the college level at the University. My involvement directly with the schools ended when my kids graduated. I thought, well, that was it. And then I sent my money and sons down to OU. But we've been involved with youth programs. We've been involved with flying kids. We've been involved with open houses with aviation. So my involvement with youth in the local community has been continuous since about since we got here in '94, I would say.
All right, thank you, Mr. Putnam. Next question, and this time you'll get to go first, Mr. Putnam. Given the challenges educators face, including political scrutiny and policy changes, What measures would you support to ensure EPS teachers feel respected, supported, and able to focus on student success?
Well, the teachers are where the rubber meets the road. We've got to support them and give them the very best support we can. I've got two personal friends who were teachers who quit after 1 year, and one of them spent 10 years getting her teaching degree and her certificate. And I asked, what's wrong? This is your dream. Why did you quit? And she goes, my principal, I was teaching middle school English, my principal wanted me to produce performance results in every child in every class every day. I had 6 classes of 32 each. That's impossible. You don't quit your career, you quit your boss. Another one had a boss, a principal, who was leaning on her all the time to make sure the parents were very, very happy, even though the parents were really banging on her drum because their child was the one who was misbehaving the most. So the teacher was being supported backwards. In other words, they weren't getting the support they needed, they were getting micromanaged. I think we need to take the top end of a lot of this off the teachers. For example, since 2002, there's been an 88% increase in overhead administrators in school districts nationwide. There's only been an 8% increase in teachers. I wonder what we could do if we put all those folks back in the classroom or just took the money that those very highly paid positions are spent for and putting it back on the teachers themselves. We need to support them a lot better, and we need to ask them how they're doing and what they need.
Thank you, Mr. Putnam. Ms. Jones, same question.
I think as parents, we need to be out supporting our teachers. Obviously, we have State Department of Education that likes to talk a lot about what our teachers are doing, which frankly in Edmond is not the truth. Our teachers are not out there to indoctrinate our children. They're there to teach. It's a hard enough job as it is. They don't need to be adding anything else, and they aren't. So I think parents out there supporting is the biggest factor, I think, for kids, or for teachers. When they feel supported by our parents and our administrators, they want to keep coming and doing their jobs. So I think that is the most important thing.
So this next question is specific to each of you. And so we're going to start with Mrs. Jones first. So from your perspective, or Mr. Jones' perspective, what are the biggest challenges current school board members face when trying to make fact-based decisions for students and teachers of EPS?
I would say they actually have a lot of information at their disposal. So when Marcus goes through a board packet for the monthly meeting that he gets, he has the opportunity to ask questions before the meeting even happens so that he can make the best decisions based on the information he has. And sometimes it'll go back and forth. He doesn't have a whole lot of time to get those questions together and get them to the people, but he does his best. And then also you'll see in board meetings, he'll do the same thing. If he doesn't quite get the answer he needs on that back and forth, he'll go ahead and ask again during the meeting. So the other thing that he'll do is, if he's still not sure at that point, he will ask to table something or vote no.
All right, thank you very much, Mrs. Jones. And Mr. Putnam. So public school funding is facing many changes from the reworking of federal funding. Do you trust Ryan Walters to responsibly manage and fairly distribute necessary funds to provide resources to all students in Edmond public schools? And how are we going to make up the difference to make sure that our students get the resources that they need for students and teachers?
Well, I heard the murmur through the room here about Ryan Walters, so that answers that part of the question. What is amazing is that the Oklahoma Council on Public Affairs did a report in January about school funding. They found that they spend on average in the state $13,700 per student, average in the state. We're spending that much at least here in Edmond. What's interesting is that you can send your kid to a private high school for $9,000 a year. So money is apparently something that's contentious and easily pointed to, but as the money is improved, we've had a 50% increase in funding in our schools in the last 7 years. we've had a 20% decrease in College Board scores at the same time. There is no direct correlation between the amount of money we spend and the performance we get. So, obviously, the State Department is responsible for distributing those funds equitably, and the school board here needs to really pay attention to that and make sure that they are. And if not, well, there's the governor's office. The other thing I would say is that there seems to be enough money, but where is it going exactly? There's $237 million being spent each year in Edmond schools, another $25 million for building projects, and another 15.5 for just child nutrition programs. Those are millions of dollars. Are we doing it wisely, and are they going to the right places? I've asked that question because I honestly don't know, because reading the budget, I can't tell. It's a 54-page document. It needs to be a lot clearer and state where things are going and why.
I'm not comfortable with this, but I'm going to do a rebuttal.
You've got a 30-second rebuttal. Thank you, Mr. Putnam. 30 seconds, Ms. Jones.
So Marcus gave me a few facts that I can use for this rebuttal. What happens at the state is, actually Oklahoma is trying to be as fair as you can. So they have kind of distributed the amount of money that each school district gets so that rural schools aren't left behind. But Edmond, because of that, Edmond gets 13% less in state funding compared to the average Oklahoma district, which means that Edmond has to make up for that.
Thank you, Mrs. Jones. Could we please give them a hand for their So now we are going to go to our closing statements. And so we're going to go back to our lovely mayoral candidates. You guys have had a nice break, but we're going to put you back on the hot seat again. So going first, Mr. Robbins, this time you have 2 minutes to sell your case to us.
So it's interesting in our church, we call it the sacrament meeting, but we have adults kind of speak on a topic, but then we have a kid now do it, that my son was able to do it this last Sunday, so it was on the love of God. And he said, his kind of quote that he based it around was, don't let a problem be so big that you forget about the people you're trying to help and solve it for. And so process is important. I'm laser focused on the budget. I vote against water rate increases. But Edmond has my heart, and I will always think about the people that we're serving. And that there's people behind those numbers, and there's people behind those decisions. You know, Edmond Local Mills is a perfect example. I was proud to be able to help use our ARPA dollars to be able to approve to do a whole expansion of that. And it's going to serve thousands and thousands of more seniors with a warm visit and a warm smile. You might not know this, but You Are Special, which is an organization that gives, and if you know my 3 boys, shoes are important and clothes are important. Well, the mission of You Are Special, for those that are familiar, is to ensure that kids who might not have that opportunity get to go shop for new stuff. Well, they were being displaced, and the kind of city council had thrown up their arms because they couldn't find a place to be able to do it. So I worked diligently to be able to find a new place and home for them. I love Edmond, Oklahoma. This is our home. And it's an opportunity that I have to be able to serve the people. You won't have me speaking on national issues. You won't have me commenting on things that'll be of an embarrassment. I will every single day be focused on the people that we served. And so I humbly ask for that baton, and I will, with all the energy that I have in my heart and with the support of my family, look to serve you. So if on April 1st, if I'm honored enough to be able to earn your vote, you can always turn to me and reach out and have a coffee, a conversation, and a connection. Because when we're connected is when we can do things together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robbins. Mr. Nash, you have 2 minutes.
All right. Yes, it is about the people. And having lived here for over 35 years, I can tell you, just like Tom, I love Edmond. But we've got an issue that we've got to address. Our reserves are slipping. Everything we do is based on the financial health of our city. And if we don't know how much money we're spending department by department, and we don't know what we need to be doing to say no so that we can stop eroding away our reserves, we're going to find a day when we really are going to be in trouble. I bring a unique set of skills to this race. We have 2 other council members who are coming on that also have financial backgrounds. That means we will have 3 people with the financial skills to get it under control so we can say what we need to do to stabilize our spending and look to the future, because in 2027, we have a couple of sales tax votes coming up to renew a big chunk of our sales tax. And if we don't know whether or not we need to renew them, if we don't know if we need to make them permanent, how are we going to know what we're going to do for the future? Because we've got to come up with a strategic plan that will ensure that all the great things we're doing today will continue for the next 100 years. My name is Mark Nash, and I ask for your vote on April 1st.
Now, to our school board candidates. So we started out with Mr. Putnam first. No, I'm sorry, Ms. Jones. And so you guys, you will get to go finish up last. So, Ms. Jones, you have 2 minutes.
I'm going to try and play the rest of this video.
Some of the things that I plan to do once I win this election is to continue championing educational excellence by making sure that we are bringing the best programs and doing the best things that we can do for our students. I know many of you might be concerned about the possible dismantling of the Department of Education, and just so you have a little bit of numbers as to where it stacks up with Edmond. Edmond currently receives $5.2 million of its $13 million in federal funding from the general fund, goes straight to IDEA, which is the Individual Disabilities Education Act. These supports are good for the students with disabilities, and so that we run a risk of possibly losing that. And so I will continue to fight to make sure that we have the appropriate funding for our students. I hope I can count on your vote, and if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I know my wife is there to be a surrogate for me, and so she could probably answer most of the questions, but anything in detail that she can't answer, I can most definitely answer, so please reach out and let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Mr. Putnam.
Well, I've talked about some of the problems we're encountering in the district, but I haven't talked a lot about how to fix it, and I think we need to focus on that. The teachers aren't getting the support they need at all levels, and I'm not going to, that's a broad brush, but we have a very high turnover in teachers in Oklahoma. We also have a lower pay grade in Oklahoma than current states. And now Oklahoma is #1 in the nation in the dropping of the teachers' certificates and going for new teaching education. We have 80% reduction in those in college going for their teaching certificates. And their answer is, well, it's low pay, but in the classroom environment, it's not very good. The discipline in the classroom isn't very good. So the working conditions, lack of respect, and they don't see any opportunities for advancement. Now, one of the things I observed in one of our school board meetings was that the superintendent got up and gave the results of a survey that went out to all the teachers. 10 different major areas. 6 of the areas are about the same, that's good. 2 went up slightly, that's good. And 2 went down a little bit. And so now my antenna's up. What are they down? What are they down for? Well, one was work-life balance. Too much time at work, not enough time for the family. The second one was classroom environment. Classroom environment, what does that mean? Well, we've heard horror stories about students throwing desks and being disrespectful. Obviously, those are a small minority, but are we successfully dealing with that small minority? We need to support the teachers to the point where they're going to be looking forward to going into the classroom and having kids that are there that want to be taught. So let's go to the very best of the teachers in each case and see what's going well. And then we've only had 12 teaching coaches for 29 schools. We've got 2,300 employees in this district, but only 12 coaches to help teachers improve. We probably need to improve that and make that a lot stronger program. Anyway, that's my focus. I appreciate your vote on the 1st of April. Thank you.
So this concludes our candidate forum. On behalf of the Edmond Democratic Women, I want to sincerely thank all of our candidates for participating and our members for being engaged in this important election. Remember, Election Day is April 1st. Check your ballot to see if you're in the candidate's district, and please make sure that your voice is heard by casting your vote. I want to thank you all. We're going to take a 10-minute break so that you can get to meet the candidates, and then we're going to come back. And for those of you who are watching at home, we're going to take a stop, and then we will come back and have our live feed again. Once again, thank you all for joining us. Thank these wonderful candidates for putting their names in the ballot. And have a good one.